I just spent most of my day at the movies. This is my favorite thing to do, and while this is normally something I would undertake alone, as most people head out to see just one major release that they're excited for, this day was special. There is a sort of cultural event going on right now, one that is built around two films that couldn't appear to be more different than one another. This massive shift in tone from the marketing for Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is so striking that, in a similar fashion to another weird internet trend that I discussed in a previous video, the internet did what it does best and created the cinematic experience Barbenheimer. Your mission? Go see Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same day, experiencing such a severe tonal whiplash that hospitalization may be required afterward. I have some thoughts on what the influence that this meme is going to have on the success of both of these films, but I think the best way to go about addressing that is to first give you my very fresh thoughts on Barbie and Oppenheimer in the order that I watched them in for my Barbenheimer day. And don't worry, if you have not seen them yet, there will be no spoilers in this video. First, I saw Barbie. When Barbie was first announced, I was very interested to see that Greta Gerwig was attached to direct, as a major studio-backed film based on Barbie was something that felt very new for her style. If you've seen any of her previous works, then you'll know just how insanely talented she is at directing very intimate and personal projects that focus on the drama of growing up based on her own personal experiences. I was curious as to how exactly she would tackle a property like Barbie, and I'm pleased to report that she did it in a way that was confidently her own. Barbie was written by both Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, and manages to be both meta, satirical, and at the same time emotional and meaningful, with a message that I'm sure will be seen as empowering to everyone. There's a focus on the issues that women face, it is a Barbie movie, but there's something there that everybody can relate to. This theme of discovering who you are outside of what is expected of you by society, or the harmful ideologies that make you feel empowered at first, but only really do harm to those around you. Those themes are explored through the film's world, and how Barbie Land contrasts with the real world. Barbie Land itself is so much fun visually. The production design is one of the standout elements of Barbie. It really feels like walking into a giant Barbie playset. Everything feels authentically plastic and artificial. Even the live-action actors I found were moving in a way that felt like they were plastic toys. The world that this film takes place in is one that is very hyper-real, and that extends to the quote-unquote real world, where even when they get there, people act very cartoonish and over the top. The meta, self-aware nature of the story is definitely going to draw comparisons to the Lego Movie. Both are based around a popular children's property, but deceptively use that property to explore real-world issues. That self-aware nature of the story itself makes moments that at first feel very preachy and heavy-handed suddenly feel completely intentional. It both makes fun of the delivery of its messages, yet embraces their meaning. There's a specific line in the voiceover narration of the film that criticizes the film itself that actually made me laugh out loud. Margot Robbie's portrayal of Barbie is fantastic. She manages to find the perfect balance between the over-the-top happiness and devastating sadness. Her character is going through a bit of an existential crisis, and she manages to play that in two very different ways. In Barbie Land, it's played comically, but once she's in the real world, that same sequence is played straight, and she nails it both times. There are scenes that really manage to hit me emotionally, and that comes exclusively from Robbie's reactions to the ideas that she's introduced to. She's perfectly cast in this part. Now, if I'm gonna talk about perfect casting, there's no way I can get around talking about the best part of the movie. Ryan Gosling's performance as Ken should be studied, marveled, preserved, and analyzed for years to come. There isn't one moment where he's on screen that didn't bring a big dumb smile to my face. The comedy of Barbie is pretty great, but not all of it hits. I didn't laugh out loud at every single line, and some of the jokes did fall flat, but for every joke that didn't work, Ken was there to make up for it. Ken is the strongest comedic element that this movie has going for it, and it's all in the performance. Honestly, it really isn't even the lines that they give Gosling. His facial expressions and body language is enough to crack me up before he even says anything. I cannot praise Ryan Gosling's Ken enough. It has to be seen to be believed. Not only is Ken hilarious, his arc is one of the most compelling in the film. No spoilers here, but there is a very positive message around Ken that some may actually misinterpret. That's why I stress how self-aware this movie is. It doesn't take itself that seriously, so adopt that same attitude when you're walking in, and I think you'll really enjoy it. On that note, if you're someone who doesn't really go into films to read, honestly probably too much into it sometimes like myself, I think you can still have a blast with Barbie. This is a very, very fun movie. So fun that the flaws I have with it won't keep me from definitely watching it again. Those flaws are really in the final act that I think could have been a little longer and dealt with some of the other characters, specifically Will Ferrell and this group of executives that I honestly could have done without. So yeah, the Barbie half of Barbenheimer was great. I recommend checking it out. Also, Ken is literally me. I'm sorry, I had to. So after Barbie, I made my way over to the next screen to see Oppenheimer. For Oppenheimer, I was joined by my dad, as Barbenheimer happened to fall on his birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. My dad and I actually have a history with the films of Christopher Nolan, as he took me to see The Dark Knight in IMAX back in 2008, where I had an experience that I can only describe as life-changing. Ever since that day, I've been admittedly a Nolan fanboy. I think he is one of the most powerful voices in modern cinema, with a directing and writing style that is unmistakably his own. Despite my being a fan of his, I think that the last films I've seen from him have been a little underwhelming in a few areas. I still really enjoyed Tenet and Dunkirk, but the characters didn't elevate the spectacular sequences quite like other Nolan protagonists from some of his better works. This was not the case for Oppenheimer. Simply, Oppenheimer was an amazing cinematic experience, one that I cannot wait to rush back and immediately experience again as soon as possible, despite its heavy content. Keep in mind, I'm working on this video right after getting home from this movie, and my mind is still racing. I'm filled with all kinds of emotions. How am I supposed to go back to living after going through something like this? It's a work of art that is as painfully real as it can get, while still feeling mythical and otherworldly. This is a 3-hour-long historical drama that is almost entirely made up of scientific and politically charged dialogue that never once felt slow or uninteresting. It's something that only the careful planning and execution of a master of the craft like Nolan could have pulled off, but he didn't do it alone. The cinematography is just unreal. Hoyt van Hoytema has solidified himself as one of the best behind the camera currently working, Oppenheimer being another amazing work to add to his incredible filmography. The images here are both horrifyingly massive and uncomfortably intimate. The shots make you not only feel the weight of what is being done by J. Robert Oppenheimer, but pulls you into how he carries that weight. The emotions the audience feels rest entirely on the tight close-ups on the reserved, enigmatic performance of Cillian Murphy. He is stellar in this role. Murphy excels in portraying a very complicated person viewed very differently by the people around him. The film plays with the idea of perspective in a way that almost feels like a direct response to more recent biopics that more often than not feel like products designed to immortalize the overly sanitized positive aspects of a cultural icon to sell more of their products. Oppenheimer doesn't shy away from the myth that has been built up around the man, but it also isn't afraid to call that myth into question. The film does not singularly praise the actions of J. Robert Oppenheimer, nor does it totally condemn those actions. The film presents you with a person and allows you to draw your own conclusions on that person, as well as reflect on the current state of our world through this person. Oppenheimer is presented in both black and white and color, with Nolan explaining that the color sequences are subjective while the black and white is objective. Some scenes are replayed in that different color scheme, providing an entirely different perspective on the interactions that took place. It's a story that lives in the conversations of highly intelligent people with various motivations. Every single actor in this film, and there are a ton of A-listers here, are performing at their very best. They all deserve praise for their work, but the standout beside Murphy is easily Robert Downey Jr. His character serves as a necessary element to the nature of this story, at one point directly calling out the contradictory behavior of Oppenheimer and how history will view him. The best way that I can describe Oppenheimer is that it is a bold film. It looks back on a time in history where the world was changed forever, and does so in an uncompromising, harsh way. What is being done with the atomic bomb is elevated by the impeccable sound design and musical score by Ludwig Göransson. There is a moment in Oppenheimer that is unlike any I've experienced in a theater before. It had me more tense than any horror film that I've seen in the past few years, and at its peak, the audience was completely silent. Oppenheimer is a visual and auditory masterpiece that is meticulously crafted in every way to serve its very heavy themes. The ending is one that I'll be thinking about for a very long time, an ending that I can only describe as emotionally devastating. Nolan has made something that will make you look at the world around you differently. Foreboding, powerful, terrifying, and haunting. Oppenheimer is easily one of the best films I have seen in a long time and the best cinematic experience I've had all year. And it was elevated by the meme of Barbenheimer. This silly internet joke turned what would have been a great day at the movies into something weirdly profound for me. Both of the theaters were absolutely packed. People were going into Barbie dressed as Ken and Barbie, and at the end of Barbie, I saw those same people leave only to come back dressed in suits and ties for Oppenheimer. This kind of stuff reminds me why I love the movies so much. It's that shared experience with total strangers all there for the same reason. To sit shoulder to shoulder with people and laugh at Ken and Barbie and stare in awe at the sequences of Oppenheimer is why I love to go to the movies. This meme has only helped both of these filmmakers. Both movies are on track to be huge successes, with people who only really planned to see them as a joke coming out loving them. At a time when the theater experience seems more in jeopardy than ever, it's great to know that we can have these pop culture events still happen through word of mouth. Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig both have packed theaters across the country enjoying their personal pieces of art because of an internet meme, and I just love that. So I highly recommend seeing Barbenheimer if you can. But be sure to see Barbie first, because Oppenheimer is so heavy that I don't think you'll be in much of a mood to laugh at Barbie when that's over. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.